Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Soulcast Media live event. Welcome. Really quick housekeeping tip. Just want to say we are broadcasting here live from California, and my name is Jessica Chen, and I'm looking at all the folks who are in and letting us know where they're dialing in from. Which, by the way, we have over 80 of you on this Soulcast Media Live right now, and I could not be more grateful that you are here. So, again, some quick housekeeping tip. I'm here with a fantastic guest I'm going to be introducing in just a few minutes. But before we do, I want to let everybody know this is actually the place to watch our Soulcast Media Live. So, if anybody is getting redirected to a different location, be sure to not click any external links other than ones posted by me on the LinkedIn. It's kind of funny, but because these lives have become so popular, we've been getting some, spammers on here. So we just want to avoid anybody getting redirected. Anything that I post, that's okay, but don't click on anything that you see other people posting you, because that's going to redirect you to a different site, which I have no idea where that takes you. So please don't click on that. But again, welcome. My name is Jessica Chen, and I want to say so happy that you are here. If everybody can hear me, please give me a thumbs up or one of those emojis, just so I know the audio is working. Just because with these virtual events, sometimes you can see me, but I can't see you. So I just want to make sure everything's working. So with that, let's kind of get started. So again, I want to say welcome, everybody. I'm seeing everybody kind of letting us know where they're dialing in from. We have a lot of folks from the European areas. We have folks from here in the US, which is, of course, is where I'm based from. So it's so fantastic seeing where everybody is. If anybody is having trouble, you can simply just refresh actually this page and it should redirect you back. But again, right now, thank you everybody for the thumbs up. I see it. So we have almost 100 of you here at this event. And again, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're dialing in from. It's around 10 a.m. here in California. So again, just so glad. So without further ado, let's get started. You're all here because we're going to be talking about something that I'm sure a lot of us have experienced at this point: remote work. Of course, here at Soulcast Media, we're all about remote working as well. I personally love it. Having a family myself, it's great to be able to work with a very flexible schedule from essentially anywhere you want. And my guest here today is somebody who can talk about this, but more importantly, she can share tips on how we can maximize productivity. And the reason why this is such a huge topic is because even though working from home can be amazing, or let's just say working from anywhere can be amazing, sometimes it's much easier to get distracted. Or perhaps you may feel the other way. Maybe you are more productive. Whatever it is that you're feeling, I would love for you to participate in our conversation. So as we're chatting, throw any questions, throw any comments in the chat function. And if we have time, we'll try to pull up some questions as well, because we want to make sure that we're getting to it. So let's pull up my guest. So her name is Mandy Fransz, and she is a top LinkedIn voice. And I'm gonna invite her up right now. So Mandy, hi Mandy, can you see us? Can you
Hi.
hear
Yes, I can hear you very well. Can you hear me?
us? Hi. So she is a LinkedIn top voice, also a speaker, and of course a huge advocate for remote work. But before we get started, Mandy, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you dialing in from? I'm sure the audience will be very curious to know just a little bit about yourself.
Yes. Hi. Hi. Thank you so much for, first of all, inviting me to the Soulcast Media live stream. And for all of you dialing in from everywhere, I can see people from Spain, so Europe and the US, Poland, I can see as well. So super excited to virtually meet. And I'm currently dialing in from, as you can probably see, beautiful Dubrovnik, Croatia, where I've been working remotely since the past week. And I'll be here in Croatia for the next few weeks to work to explore the beautiful islands and to work remotely. And yeah, I just came from Portugal actually, where I spent the last couple of months working remotely, and now I'm here. So yeah, excited to have this session with you all today, and maybe a little bit of a background story of myself, because I know many of you probably never met me before, or maybe we're already connected on LinkedIn. But I am originally from the Netherlands. So as you might maybe hear from my accent. I have a Dutch accent. So I'm from the Netherlands. I grew up in a small town in the Netherlands where everybody, worked from the office and had this traditional lifestyle. But for me, I always loved to work, or I always loved to explore different cultures and to travel. So as a small town girl, I always had this dream to work online and travel the world while I'm at it. So I after graduation, so I studied in Rotterdam for a master's degree in marketing management and bachelor degree in international business administration. And since then, I actually booked a back 2 month backpacking trip upon graduation. So I didn't want to apply for any corporate jobs. I already wanted to somehow work remotely. However, I had no clue how to make this happen. So I just booked a backpacking trip to figure out how to make this work. And I actually started a blog, a travel blog, as that was the way of how people were apparently working online many years ago. Back then, remote work was not very common yet, as it is, as you most probably are aware of right now. And yeah, that's travel blog. So I have a twin sister. So it was called the Backpacking Twins. I was traveling around with my twin sister, but we had no idea how to make this travel blog a business. So actually, we didn't know what we were doing, and we didn't make a single cent back then. But then, luckily for me, a LinkedIn recruiter reached out to me on LinkedIn, and that's how I got my first full-time job at LinkedIn's European headquarters in Dublin, Ireland. And that's how I started working for LinkedIn, the company. So worked there for a few years. Amazing experience. So I love the company and the culture. However, I was still working in the office from rainy Dublin. It was raining more than 265 days, I think, out of the year. And I love sunny destinations such as Croatia. So already 4 years ago today, more than 4 years ago now, I decided to quit my job again without a plan. And I booked a ticket to Bali, from where I founded my current business, Make the Leap Digital, where I help companies and individuals mainly to use LinkedIn to build their online personal brand. So you can use the platform to for sales and branding and marketing purposes. And that's what I've been doing until today. So I do one-on-one coaching, virtual workshops, and keynote speaking and sessions like today. So that's a little bit about me.
So it's so funny because listening to you talk, I can hear the birds chirping. So it's kind of like, we can tell that you really are truly dialing in. And right now, you mentioned you're in Croatia. Right before this, you were in Portugal. And that's the beauty of remote work, which is essentially what we're going to be talking about today. And right now, we have over 120 people
Wow.
dialed in because I think a lot of people are very interested in this topic, of max
Yeah.
productivity. So I just want to dive into this, Mandy, and I have a lot of things that I can share when it comes to virtual work, virtual communications, because here at Soulcast Media, we're all about communication. So I have a lot of things I want to share as well. But I want to first ask
Yes.
you, Mandy, of course, you're a huge advocate for remote work. I love remote work. But when people say that, oh my gosh, I love working remotely, but how can I be more productive? Do you have
Hmm.
any high level tips and tricks, things that have worked for you that you can share with our audience?
Yes, definitely. Yes, and great question because when people started working remotely, and it does definitely increase productivity. But so also for myself, when I started out 4 years ago now, I didn't have any structure or routine in place. So literally, I would wake up without an alarm clock, roll out of bed, do whatever I felt like doing, and most of the time that meant going for a workout in the morning, which I still do today, having a long breakfast, and then start my day maybe at around 11 a.m. And then not really having a structure in place, which at some points I really realized that affected my productivity. So especially since COVID hits, since the pandemic hits, and working remotely is not working from home. It's not similar at all. So it's very different if you work like I am doing right now in the past couple of weeks, when you work from different locations. But especially when you work from home, where you have the family, and when work life is much more blended, you do need to have some sort of routine in place, some sort of structure. And only since then, that's when I started creating, setting boundaries for myself, and more of a structure. So I remember at the start of the pandemic, I wrote down a timeline for myself of waking up at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. having my breakfast and shower, and then 9 a.m. really start my work day. So yeah, really planning your days help me to be more productive, but also just like planning your day, but also your breaks, for example.
Mhm.
So it can be really easy to just start your work day maybe in your pajamas still. That's why I now have it written in my calendar and on my productivity planner. I use that now as well. um, to shower and get dressed, because that already increases your productivity, right? To
Mhm.
really set yourself up for success at home, or when you work from places like Croatia.
Mhm.
But also during the day, planning those breaks ahead. So I have the breaks planned in my calendar to go for lunch, to go for a walk outside, and really, setting those boundaries for myself to take those breaks as well, because it actually increases your productivity instead of just working 24/7.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the one of the I guess dangers of working remotely or working with such a flexible schedule is sometimes your time can also get away from you, surprisingly, right? You work
Yeah.
remotely because you think there's so much luxury with time, like, oh, I'm at home, I can get a lot of things done. But you dial in and you open your laptop at 8 a.m. and before you know it's already the afternoon. You're like, oh my
I
gosh, what
know.
happened? Right. So speaking of time and kind of building on what you said is I think what's really helped me is blocking out just straight meeting times. So I have
Mm-hmm.
maybe 4 hours of my day where it's just going to be about meetings, right? This is where I kind of
Yes.
book for me back to back meetings. So then, therefore, once I finish all my meetings in this chunk and block of time, then I have another 4 hours to actually put my head down and actually do the work, right?
Yes,
Because what I have
exactly.
found that has really hurt productivity is always jumping back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Jumping back and forth, like,
Switching.
"Oh,
Yeah.
I have a 1-hour meeting here. Okay, I have a 30-minute break. I have another 1-hour meeting. I have a 30-minute break," right?
Exactly.
When you're jumping like that, you can't focus on getting one
Yeah.
task done.
Yeah.
That's worked well for
Exactly.
me.
And yes, and that's I totally agree with that. And what really helped me is defining your Einstein window frame, as I like to call it. So this is basically everybody has a different time frame where you're most productive. For some people, it's in the morning, maybe early in the
Mhm,
morning, maybe it's late afternoon, maybe even in the evening. But it's usually around 2 hours that you're most productive. So really, define for yourself what are those 2 hours. That is your Einstein window, and block the time in your calendar, and see it as a non-negotiable to have that time for yourself, to have those 2 hours to do some deep dive and focus work. And then outside of that, you can do your meetings, for example. But
mhm,
that Einstein window really helped me to be more productive as well, and really get some work done instead of
mhm.
having meetings scattered around the week.
Right.
Another thing that I'm thinking of now when I'm talking about meetings is another practice that I implemented for myself in the past year, I think, and I love it. It's no meeting Mondays, so I don't do any meetings on Mondays. So yeah, as a remote worker, you can, as you mentioned, Jessica, you can work like 24/7. So it's really about setting those boundaries for yourself of to make sure you don't work all the time. Remote work is about working from anywhere, uh, anytime, but not all the time.
Yes. It's same here. I actually try not to schedule any meetings before 9 a.m. because I always try to make sure that my morning, at least I give myself 1 or 2 hours to catch up on emails, right? And I know a lot
Yeah.
of us who are working, we have standing meetings with our teams. I know that's a very common, like every Tuesday at 10 a.m., we have a group team meeting. I hear that very often. And I feel that when it's like that, like let's say you have like a 10 a.m. standing meeting every Tuesday, I would say then I would try to build your meeting block around your standing meetings.
Yeah.
That means you can try to book meetings at 9 a.m., at 11 a.m., at 12 p.m.,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's kind of your 4 hour chunks of meetings. It's built around what's already set in place. And that's an easy
Yes.
way for you to kind of block out time for just meetings and then just work. I'm hearing some people who are actually chiming in. Candace is saying her productivity time is definitely towards the end of the day. So it's funny because everybody has their own what you call Einstein hour. For
Yeah.
me, because of my office and how it's where the sun comes in, once it starts coming in a certain direction, my mind starts thinking, okay, it's time to wrap up here because also my
Yeah,
office gets really hot. So I'm like, okay,
yeah.
it's time to wrap it up. And then
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It can depend on the, on the situation. So if you're working from home, it might be different because maybe, you have kids or something else. Or and if now, for example, I'm working in Croatia, and I mean, how we started this morning was going for a hike, and we had a beautiful view where we did a meditation, and then on our walk back we did a dip into the sea, and then we start working. Well, normally in the mornings I would be more productive, but
Mhm,
now having, being in this beautiful destination, it's also yeah, it's good to see how can you adjust your schedule to
mhm,
fit with your current situation. So it
mhm.
might change as well.
So, one of the things I have to talk about is communications as well. Just because Soulcast Media, we are a communications training agency. So, we talk about all things communications, and communications is very much linked to productivity. And I'll explain why. The reason why is because if you can't have good communications, you lose productivity. And what I mean by that is okay, you jump on a virtual call, you get into a virtual meeting, and things like internet access, right? Or, it's hard to hear people, or
Hmm.
it's hard to kind of see people, right? That can also affect productivity because
Yes.
if you can try to make sure that all your tech stuff is ready to go,
Hmm.
it's clear, people can see you, people can hear you, then you're not having to spend too much time in trying to make sure everything goes smoothly. So
Yes.
I think that's a huge part of virtual communications that can help streamline productivity. But Mandy,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I highly agree. So, I mean, communication is a big part of remote work either way. So, communication has become even more important now that we work remotely. Over communicating and bringing your message across virtually is a lot different
Mhm.
than in person, and especially now that you have all the tools that you have to the tools and the tech, as you mentioned, the Wi-Fi speed, etc. And what we just had actually when we were dialing in into the session today was, since I just moved locations here in Croatia, I had set up the tech before. So, yeah, thinking about that beforehand and having the technology in place. For example, right here, I'm standing with a camera, a microphone. I have a standing desk that I use, and having all of those tools in place so that you can communicate in a good way.
Right.
Maybe you prefer standing, maybe you prefer to sit down. Yeah, so I definitely think the tools are very important as well in terms of communication, but communication in general is very important to bring your message across virtually. So yeah,
Yeah.
I've been learning from you as well. I've been I think a year ago. About a year ago, I watched one of your small courses about virtual communication, and I loved it. So, great
Thanks,
job!
Mandy. Thank you, Mandy. You must be talking about my executive presence course, right, on
Yes,
LinkedIn.
yes,
Well, thank you for watching it. Yeah, that course has done fantastic. We've actually had over 1 million people watch that course on LinkedIn.
yeah.
So for those who
Wow.
actually haven't checked it out, it's called Developing Executive Presence on Video Conference Calls. The funny thing, I'll tell everybody a story about that. So I worked with LinkedIn to create that course back in 2018, I think,
Oh wow.
and it was pre-pandemic. And as you can imagine, at the time, there was some interest in that course, but nothing tremendous. And then when everybody started working from home, the interest in that course of how can I develop executive presence on video, it just shot up. We had so many people watch that course. Um,
Yeah.
Over 1 million people, and of course, a lot of corporate companies are saying, "Oh my gosh, we need our we need our team to also watch this course and get
Yeah.
trained in that as well." So yeah, what I
Yeah.
mentioned earlier about tech checks, like even for those watching, Mandy and I, before we even jumped on this, we spent 15 minutes just making sure all our tech checks was good to go. And I think pre-planning that is very important to make sure it's a seamless event. So people like us,
Yeah.
like Mandy and I, when we're doing these lives often, we also make sure to carve out time ahead of time
Yes.
to make sure
Yes.
everything runs smoothly.
Yes.
One of the other things I wanted to mention that has to do with communications and productivity is handling meetings, right? How
Mm-hmm.
can you handle meetings to make sure that the time spent in these meetings are productive? I have a
Yes.
few tips and tricks that I share. I also share it in that course. But Mandy, what are your thoughts on how to handle virtual meetings, maybe even from a communication standpoint? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, great point. I think meetings, and I just had this call today as well with the company who was planning to get rid of the office and become a fully distributed workforce. And the traditional mindset is to schedule meetings for everything, right? And the way meetings are being done has transformed now that companies and people are working remotely across different time zones. So maybe you work with clients, whether you're maybe a freelancer or a coach or consultant, entrepreneur, or maybe you work with a team that has people all around the world. Communications is now, not just everybody in the same room in the same time zone, but you really have to take into account how can you make sure everyone feels included, and yeah, can also access the information wherever they are, where and whenever they are.
Hmm.
So asynchronous communication, of course, is doing meetings, for example, by video, if that's possible,
Hmm.
is a great solution to do that, so that people can watch it back in their own time if it's possible. um, when it's needed, of course, when you need people in the same room, then make it as engaging as possible. So only schedule meetings when you want to make a decision or you want to brainstorm, but not for the sake of just having meetings. And what really helps is just sending like a pre read beforehand, or to make sure that people are informed before diving into the meeting, and then yeah, make sure that the meeting is as productive as possible, of course, as we're talking about productivity here. And not stick to the 60 minutes if you schedule 60 minutes just for the sake of having that meeting, but make it maybe as yeah, as short as and effective as possible to also yeah, make take into account everyone's time schedule and productivity and Einstein frame. um,
So you
yes.
mentioned a few things that I want to reiterate. So I think you mentioned sending out some agenda items, and this is just to let the team know that, hey, this is what we're going to be talking about. But you also mentioned, of course, not scheduling meetings just to schedule meetings, but making sure that the meeting that is going to be happening, let's say 2 o'clock, it's because we're trying to come to a decision. It's because you're trying to
Yes.
get a feedback. You're trying to make a discussion. I think whatever the intention of the meeting is, be very upfront and clear. So let's say if you are the manager and you're the one putting together this meeting or scheduling the meeting with your team, I think it will go such a long way for productivity if you let them know in the initial email, hey everyone, we have a 2 p.m. meeting. This is what I want our goal to be. I want us to come to a decision on A, B, and C. And this is a good
Yes.
way for people to just kind of start getting their minds thinking of, okay, my next 2 o'clock meeting, our boss Susan wants us to make sure we're coming to the table prepared to make a decision,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Instead of just kind of like going back and forth, because as we all know, time flies sometimes on these virtual meetings and time is also
Yes.
very precious. So I think when it comes to productivity, it's also about efficiency as well, right?
Yes, definitely. And also then when you're in the meeting, right, how can you then make it as interactive as possible, make sure that people feel engaged and not just sit back and don't participate. So tools, for example, Prezi Video, which I know you've been using a lot as well, work really well to make a meeting more engaging, and instead of using PowerPoint slides, for
Mhm.
example, but also making notes, meeting notes during the meeting, also for people who are maybe working from different time zones, to make sure that they can watch back the meeting or the meeting notes and contribute even if they are not there at the meeting themselves. That's super important too. And actually, I was in a really cool. I was talking with a client that I helped to promote his business on LinkedIn. It's called Headroom. Not sure if you heard of this. He was also presenting at a conference that I was a part of last week here in Croatia, and he has this meeting tool that automatically with AI and voice recognition creates the meeting notes, and you can just basically copy and paste the notes while it's being typed automatically. And it also tracks the level of engagement of each person, and how much percentage everyone speaks in the room, so that you can track
Mm.
how well everyone is engaged in the meeting as well. So those tools, I think, are becoming more and more popular now. People are working remotely, and to make remote meetings more effective as well.
Interesting. That's so fascinating. So, for those who are just joining, I actually want to do a quick reset and welcome everybody. So, I'm here with my friend Mandy, and we are talking about max productivity for remote
Hmm.
work because this is the world we're living in now. And even if hybrid working, right? I think hybrid working is part of remote working as well. But we're talking about a topic that I think is close to both of our hearts. And for the over 120 of you who are joining right now, we are just so grateful for you and the fact that you are here. So, I'm going to pull up some questions from the audience. I know we have a few, but before I do that, Mandy, what are your thoughts about video on or video off? I get this question so much.
I personally love video on, just because it creates a personal connection. So I always default to video on when I talk with potential clients, or with when I speak with people like yourself, yeah, that I never met before in person,
Mhm.
just to yeah, build that connection also virtually. However, a tip that I always tell my clients is to also think, does this meeting have to be with video? Because if it's without, you can also combine it with going for a walk, for example, outside. So then you can combine it with your self-care practice or well-being practice, and go for a nice walk while having your meeting outside.
True. I agree. I'm an advocate for video on just because I think it helps me connect with the people I'm talking to. Like, for example, Mandy, you and I have never met in person, but I feel like, okay, I can see you. I feel like I know you, right? It just
Hmm.
builds a little bit more of that human connection that we wouldn't get, you know, otherwise. Maybe one day when you'll come to California, Mandy, we'll meet in person, or maybe I'll visit you wherever you
Yeah.
are in Europe one of these days.
You're
But
more than welcome.
until then, until then, I think video really does help build that. I want to jump back a little bit too. You mentioned presentations and you mentioned Prezi. So, I mean, I love Prezi. Prezi, we had a guest, we actually had the CEO of Prezi, Jim, on
Yeah.
this Soulcast Media Live not too long ago. I really enjoy
Nice.
using their software because they really helped elevate presentations. But speaking of presentations, I like using them because you are part of the presentation, right? You are building your deck
Hmm.
where you are basically sitting. So for me, I
Yeah.
always use it where it's next to me. So when I'm
Hmm.
presenting, you can see me half the time, and then you can see the other text, bullets, whatever it is that I'm showing.
Yeah.
And I really like that for presentations that I do. I do a lot of keynote speaking, and I always build Prezi. Otherwise,
Nice.
you're just a small box on the bottom. And I
Yes.
feel like when it comes to virtual engagement, that really takes it away. And for a lot of us who do presentations virtually, or even once in a while, if you do it, I always think if you can think, how can I make this presentation the most interesting and engaging? People are more likely to listen to you if you can. So I always just
Yes.
challenge people to think, okay, yes, you can build it through PowerPoint because I think that's just kind of the default for a lot of us. But
Hmm.
even if you use that, that's fine. But how can you make it more interactive? For me, I
Yes.
like to use again that software system because it's more engaging. But
Yes,
just my
definitely,
two
I
cents.
agree. And maybe something that I learned from my partner, actually, who's working remotely here as well. What he uses, and that I've been testing for myself as well lately, and I think it works really well. As you mentioned, the human connection and the
Yeah.
personal connection is, for example, by yeah, think about sending a proposal to a potential client. And instead of just sending that boring PowerPoint slides, you could create a video walking them through that proposal, and that instantly builds that human connection as well. And they can see you, and you can give more explanation as well, of course. But definitely, I think the having that connection, that is what makes you stand out from the crowd. So those tools are very handy to use for yeah, for different purposes.
For those who are listening, you can see that we're talking more about human connection because that's also part of the thing with remote work. And sometimes you can lose that touch.
Hmm.
And I think finding ways to continuously build connection with people in a remote world, I feel like that can really help essentially kind of help you stand out. So one of the
Yes.
things I want to do now is I actually want to pull up some of the questions that we're getting from our audience. And one of the questions that I had that I wanted to ask is, so this is um, okay. How do you prevent overtime hours when you are working from home? So basically making sure that you're not working too much because it's so easy to really just work
Yes.
over your 8, 9 hours a day. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I totally feel you. I fell for the same trap. When I started out, working 24/7, or at least feeling that you always have to be on, so you don't mentally switch off. Yeah, for myself, and also what I tell my clients is, the key thing is setting boundaries for yourself. So setting boundaries by, first of all, being clear of what is it, what does your schedule look like that you want to work, when do you want that off time, and then block it in your calendar again. So I have my calendar is really blocked with times that I have my breaks. When I have my morning practice, for example, I have that blocked in as well, so that I really dedicate time for that, and then the end of the day as well, so I have a clear end start and end date, and then the breaks in between as well. So that's what really helps, time blocking. But also, for example, the Pomodoro technique. Not sure if you're familiar with the Pomodoro technique.
No, what is that?
Oh, really? So that's it's basically time management trick. So it's usually 25 minutes or 50 minutes. You can just simply use your phone, set a timer of 25 or 50 minutes, and then really focus on one task, and then have a 5 or 10 minute break, and that will help you to increase your productivity as well. So yeah, using those Pomodoro sessions will help you to focus on that one task, and then afterwards to make sure to kind of cut the boundary again, and log off from your work.
Interesting.
Um, and I'm not sure how it works for you. For me, what I try to do as well is like limiting the notifications. I think if you have the notifications on your phone, with your email, maybe social media, I'm very active on both LinkedIn and Instagram. So if I do see the notifications, I tend to tap on the notifications, and to see what's going on, and that then you fall for working more over hours, maybe in the evenings or weekends. So
Mhm.
maybe you want to set a boundary for yourself to maybe delete your apps from your phone in the evenings or weekends, or at least what I do now is to put them at the back of my phone, so it's not the first within one click I can open my Instagram or LinkedIn app.
This actually reminds me, I'm actually working with a CEO of a company right now. And even though we're working on communications and her strategic messaging, it always falls back onto productivity too. We always our conversations end up with productivity. And she was telling
Mhm.
me how, for her, because she manages this huge company, she has to be very careful with her time management as well. And
Mhm.
she says it's sometimes very easy for her to just do like the very easy stuff, but like the things that really require her to think, to really kind of brainstorm, because that takes a lot more mental capacity. It's much easier for her to kind of just push it off to the side, because it's
Yes.
easier to just respond to those emails or do this and do, like, again, just the easy stuff, right? So
Yeah.
I told her that, maybe if it's really about the productivity that you want help with, it's essentially what we talked about earlier, is knowing that, let's say for her, it's brainstorming a new, I think, what was it that she was doing? She needed to essentially kind of repivot one of her service lines that she has at her company. And that takes a lot of strategizing, brainstorming to really
Mhm.
think about what direction I want to take the business.
Yeah.
It would have been much easier for her to just go on her inbox and just reply to email, but she needed to carve out time to literally just sit and think in quiet
Yeah.
and peace. And so
Yeah.
I mentioned to her, like you said, sometimes just turning off your internet, putting your phone away, whatever it is
Mhm.
that can just get you to focus on a blank Word document, right?
Yes.
Just so you can just
Yes.
look at that and not anything
Yes.
else. That can help with
Yeah.
like the bigger picture projects that you need to finish.
Yeah, exactly. And break it down as well, right? So what I use for myself is, and that's been a game changer as well, is productivity tools like Trello. So I use Trello. I'm not sure if
I
you
love
use.
Trello. I use it too.
Yes, yes. So that really helps me as well to plan ahead my week. So I have my week planned Monday to Sunday, even my year, so quarter, annually, etc. So then I have all the tasks. I spent a lot of time on this in January to plan ahead and really break down all the tasks. So then I can go into each week. So I start every Monday. I start off with planning and prioritizing. So what
Mhm.
are what are the tasks that I need to do this week, and what do I prioritize? And often we see that we actually think we can do a lot more in one day. So then we have 10 tasks planned. So that's why I created this, what I have here as well. I'll just will quickly show you. I created my own productivity planner
Oh,
um, where I can only write 5 to-dos. And 5 is actually already a lot, so 3 is the best. But to really limit myself, that I can't have 10 to-dos in one day. You only have, 24 hours per day, which you
mhm,
shouldn't all plan with work.
mhm.
So yeah, planning ahead your task using a productivity planner tool like Trello or on paper like I have right here will help you to get focused and to increase that productivity as well without overworking and spending too much time on work.
So one of the other questions that I want to pull out, which by the way, we're getting so many questions. So this one's from
Oh,
Neelam.
sorry.
How can I tell the kids or other family to let me focus and work because they just show up in my office and want to get into a chat or talk about other things? So what can I say to, my kids, my spouse, if they just want to keep popping into my office and talking when I need to work? What are your thoughts about this?
So I don't have children, so I can't talk from personal experience. But a tip that I learned, and actually I think it's from the same Todd Duet is his name, a LinkedIn Learning course instructor as well.
Todd is awesome.
Yes, you know him.
Yes.
Great. Yes,
He was
so
actually
he's
on this,
the
not too long ago too.
He was.
Yeah.
Wow, what a coincidence don't exist. But yes, I think the Einstein window frame I have from his course as well on time management. So you could watch the LinkedIn Learning course about time management from Todd as well. And I think one of the tips that he shares around, maximizing productivity and time management with children, especially, is using post-it with colors. So having one post-it with like don't disturb, or a yellow post-it only when necessary, or a green post-it, yes, you can enter the room. Um, and maybe even combine it like a user gamification, like if you don't disturb and you get a point, and then at the end of the day you'll receive a candy or something like this.
I love that actually. That's a really cute idea of putting, Post-it notes on your door. If it's red, it's like, "Please do not enter." If it's green, "Enter
Yes.
as you please," kind of thing.
Yes.
I like
Yes,
that.
exactly. Yes, and maybe then they can collect the post-its, and then if they have the number of post-its they have collected that they wanted to disturb but they didn't, they get like a sticker or whatever it is.
I love that. I love that. I actually should probably use that strategy. Sometimes I just go really like rogue. Sometimes I just scream, "Don't come upstairs. I'm in a meeting right now."
Well, actually, I'm thinking because you probably might have like a lot of background noise sometimes as well. You just can't control. Maybe you have a dog, right? Or or children. Are you familiar with the tool called Crisp?
Crisp, no.
This is we just talked about this today. That is like a game changer as well. For example, today I was working from the beach. Loud music in the background, and Crisp is basically a tool that cancels all the background noise.
Mm.
So you can't hear anything, whether it's children screaming in the background, a dog barking, or beach club music, where you're working from. Crisp, yeah, it's a good tool to check out.
I'm looking at the comments that are coming in right now. Elena says,
Mhm.
I write my schedule on a small whiteboard on the door of my office each day so they know when I'm not available. That is actually a brilliant idea, Elena. It's basically just making sure that everybody who's in your house also knows what you're up to, because I think that's the problem with people just barging in sometimes. They don't know what the heck is going on, right? But if they
Yes,
look and they're like, oh, okay, mommy or daddy's in a meeting right now, then they, won't, or
yes,
their spouse, for example, are looking
yeah,
too. I
yeah.
know some uh, spouses or, partners, they'll share calendars sometimes. So they will
Mm.
know that if they need to book a meeting, that they'll just look at their shared calendar and they're like, oh, they have a meeting at 2, so I can't do a meeting at 2, right? So I
Yeah,
think just little things like that, if you're both
yeah,
working in the same place, I think that can help for sure.
yeah.
One of the other questions that I saw is from Steven. I work international. So clients are in all different time zones. So unfortunately, having meeting blocks is limiting my availability. So Mandy, do you have any thoughts on that working internationally? Because I mean, yeah, for example, you're in Europe. I'm sure you work with people in the US as well. How do you manage that? How do you do blocks if you're different time zones?
Ah, so if I understand the question correctly, is if you block the times in your calendar, and then clients can't schedule meetings anymore if you have that time blocked in your calendar. Is that what you?
It's more like if you are working with people in different time zones,
Mm-hmm.
how can you time block more efficiently because you are in different time zones?
So more, yeah. How do you work more efficiently with clients across different time zones, and how
Yeah.
to implement your schedule? So, yes, I work with clients all around the world. Sometimes based in Australia, sometimes based in the US. So definitely also that keep that in mind when planning ahead your week, that you
Yes.
don't work. For example, today it is 7, 8. It's almost 8 p.m. for me. So I don't. So it's important for me to not keep in mind. To keep in mind to not start my day at 9 a.m., which I usually do, and then until 8 p.m., but really take the time, like I did today, to have that dip into the sea or to take a break during the day. So if you have that and plan ahead your week again, to make sure to see how your week looks like, and that you don't work 10 or 12 hours per day just because you have those clients all around the world. Um, so yeah, to keep that in mind for yourself. But also, I think what helped me was thinking about what is my ideal work schedule. So do I want to work evening hours? And so for me, I use Calendly as a scheduling tool,
Mhm.
and I defined the hours in Calendly to yeah, so clients can book their meetings with me through that link, and it automatically syncs with my calendar whenever I want to be available. So my calendar doesn't own me, but I own my calendar, kind of way.
Very important.
Yes.
One of the things I want to add to this is so if you're working with clients internationally, so for example, I'm here in the US, I'm in California. So sometimes if I work with folks in Asia, so Asia time would be my evening. So around like 5 o'clock, my time is their morning. So if I know I have clients in Asia that I need to work with, that means I have to make sure I'm working in the evening time. So then I'll just make sure that any meetings I have will be around the evening times that day.
Hmm.
So let's say I have a meeting with a client at 5 p.m. Then I may try to book more of my meetings towards the end of the day because I know that's when my meetings are situated because I'm working with Asia clients. But let's say I'm working with clients in Europe region, that would be my morning, which is kind of more of their evening now. So I would make sure most of my meetings that day are in the morning. And I think
Yes.
the good thing with meetings is normally we all kind of know meetings ahead of time, right? So when we are accepting meetings, we're looking at our calendar, we can try to fit them in where it best fits us. So that's
Hmm.
something that's worked well for me. I'm sure it's also worked for you, Mandy. But
Yes.
I just want to say we've been chatting for over 45 minutes now, and just can't believe how fast the time has gone. We have over 100 of you who have stayed on, and we're just so grateful. If anybody has any last minute questions for us or thoughts, comments, please throw it in the chat function. I'm actually trying to read them as I'm chatting with Mandy, and it just makes me so happy to see everybody's thoughts and opinions when it comes to productivity. But as we wrap up here, Mandy, do you have any last minute advice, last minute thoughts that you want to share with our audience? And I can almost guarantee that the audience who are watching right now, they're working in some form or way of remote or even hybrid. So any tips you'd want to share?
Yes. So in terms of productivity, I think you can have the best productivity tool, time management techniques, etc., in place, but it all also comes down to your self care practices and taking the time in during the day to take care of your own well being, and that makes you more productive. So no matter how busy you are, I hope after this meeting you'll promise me to dedicate a time, even if you feel stressed or you have too many tasks, dedicate some time for yourself to have that self-care practice, whether that is a meditation as I did this morning, a quick dip in the sea, or just a walk in the nature, or listen to music or read a book, whatever it is for you. Definitely plan that in your calendar as well. Block some time in your calendar to take care of the self-care practice, and it will help you increase your productivity too.
I cannot agree more. And I'm so happy that you mentioned that, because the thing with remote work that we can often forget is the self care part, right? And whether it's like you mentioned earlier, you went on a hike this morning, you did a meditation this morning. I think for you, you carving that in for yourself is really key. For me, my downtime is actually at the end of the night. In the morning, I don't know, I just feel like I just have so many things I have to catch up on. So for me, I make sure I spend that time to take care of myself more towards the evening once my family's asleep, because I'm actually the last one to go to sleep. So I have this quiet time, where
Yeah,
I can kind of do what I want to do, meditate, listen to calm music. I saw somebody said they use music to focus, right? Whatever
exactly. Yeah,
it is, just make sure you find a time that works for you. So,
yeah.
with that, I just want to say thank you so much. And actually, Stephanie, I see your question. Is there a way to get access to this whole presentation later? The answer is yes. If you go onto our website, soulcastmedia.com, you put in your email for this event. You can find it all on our website. We're going to send everybody a recording of this to that. So make sure you go on our website, soulcastmedia.com. And if you click this event, you'll be able to get a recording if you RSVP. So, with that, Mandy, I just want to say thank you so much. Where can people find you?
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me as well, and for all of you tuning in from everywhere and for hanging with us until the end. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, of course. So with my name, Mandy Fransz, as you can see here in the bottom, I think. Or I'm also very active on Instagram at Make the Leap. So maybe I'm not sure if you can write it in the chat,
Mhm.
Jessica. It's Make the Leap _
Yes.
um, so I'm very active there as well. So I'll be showcasing the digital nomad lifestyle in Croatia over the next couple of weeks. So if you're interested as well to learn more about remote work, digital nomadism, of course LinkedIn and online entrepreneurship, feel free to follow me on those channels. And happy to virtually meet again, hopefully very soon.
We will be sure to link all of Mandy's website and everything that she's mentioning in the email. For those who RSVP'd, we're going to be sending you the recording of this, and then we'll also be
Mhm.
sending you the website so you can all connect with Mandy. But also be sure to follow her on LinkedIn as well. I'm sure you have any questions about remote work, Mandy. I'm sure we'll be very happy to answer them as well. So
Yes.
again, I want to thank you everybody for tuning in. I want to let everybody know that May here in the US is AAPI month. It's the month honoring Asian Americans. And one of the things that I wanted to let everybody know is because of this, and we're a communications company, we're offering 50% off one of our most popular courses to celebrate. It's our Communicating with Confidence course. So, for those who are interested in taking that course, it's one of our most popular. I just linked it in our chat function. So, take that course. We're offering 50% off for AAPI month, celebrating Asian Americans such as myself. So, again, thank you, everybody. We will be doing another Soulcast Media Live in about 2 weeks. I do about 2 or 3 of these a month now, and we invite great guests like Manny to come on to talk about career, communications, remote work, things that we're all just very passionate about here at Soulcast Media. So if you want to get notified, again, go to our website, soulcastmedia.com, and join our email list, because that's how we notify everybody of our upcoming events. So
Yeah.
with that, I just want to thank Mandy. Thank you so much for taking your time. I know it's the evening now. I hope
Yes.
you enjoy Croatia. I'm so jealous. It's been on my list of places to go. So
Oh yes, you have to visit. I'm looking at a gorgeous view right now, and yeah, it's a beautiful city and country. So hopefully you can make it to Europe, and let me know if you're ever around in the Netherlands, so we can meet in person. Hopefully.
hopefully, and that's the thing. That's the beauty of it, is because now we are on video. I feel like, oh, Mandy, this is who you are. It's gonna
I
kind of feel like
know.
we've met each other already.
Yeah, it also I was at this conference last week, a work conference for all remote workers, and there were so many people that I only met virtually, but we saw each other for the first time, and we're like, it just looks like, or it seems like we know each other already for a
Absolutely.
long time. But yeah, I can't wait to see you.
All right. Well, thank you, Mandy, and thank you everybody for staying on. Take care, and I will talk to everybody soon.
All right,
Bye.
bye. Thank you so much.